I was just telling Chris, Demm, and Dave the story about one time when I requested that Debbie Gibson song, Lost in Your Eyes.
Yo. Who you want to send it out to?
Debbie herself. I wanted to.
She's not listening.
Yeah. I called the radio station, G105. I used to love that station. And they were playing, it was the Hot 8 at 8 or Hot 10 at 10. And I said, I want to request and vote for Debbie Gibson's Lost in Your Eyes.
Again?
Haven't you called already?
Called earlier, didn't you?
You try to change your voice at all?
Every time.
I'd like to vote for Debbie Gibson. Is it possible to, I just love Lost in Your Eyes.
I loved
Okay, bye.
Lost in Your Eyes. I loved that song. And
Is that your prom theme? Because I know Homecoming could have been, right?
Could Have Been by Tiffany was,
But that
yes,
was the fall.
that was, yes, our homecoming dance after the football game. That's when I was waiting in the stag line.
So was Debbie prom?
Well, I never made it to the prom. So I don't know the theme.
right.
I had to.
Never having been.
Yeah. You had to sling Q, didn't you?
I was on the hush puppy line.
Sure.
Somebody has to do the French fries, Dave.
They're not going to do themselves.
Duty calls.
That's right.
I said I work before I play.
Did any of the older waitresses there just ever look at you and say, kind of very almost famous like, and say, I'm going to take his V card.
What, throw him one?
I'm going to throw him one. Especially on prom night when you're there slinging barbecue. None of them looked at you and were like, all right, come back here for a minute.
Any of them give you a drag off their cigarette?
Now, they did do that.
You wanna smoke?
They give me a drag
Oh,
off.
Viceroy. I haven't seen those in a while.
And a 100.
Wouldn't you think? I wish they would.
I thought
have.
maybe one of them would take mercy on you, especially on prom night when you're there and everyone else is
Yeah.
out partying and coming in, seeing
Coming
you
in late.
working.
Yeah. At one point, they said, this was in 1987. I remember this very well. I was 16, and I still had my V card. And the world was supposed to end. There was some kook who said, the world's ending at whatever time on Friday night.
Was that the first big rapture talk?
I know that was
that later?
It was all over the news.
Yeah.
I mean, it must have been the first time because everybody was reporting, well, and kind of in a joking way, of course. And
That the one that was in San Diego?
No,
No,
that was
that's
later.
that's the something cult.
But this was some nutcase said he'd put together the algorithm and the world was going to end at whatever time. So I said to each and every one of the waitresses,
Please. Please, I beg of you. Don't let me leave this earth a virgin.
I was afraid I would leave the earth a virgin and it would be the worst possible thing. Can you imagine? It's like the world ends and here I am. And I asked several people, but a couple
To
of
violate you?
yes,
Very, very illegal.
Can you imagine? I mean,
Oh, God,
and
yeah,
I didn't think
no.
in the 80s. I didn't think a thing about it. I was like, "Would you please have sex with me so that I don't leave the earth a virgin?"
Please.
And they all said,
Oh, he's crying.
"No, sweetheart, I'm not going to do that. Obviously, that's not going to happen." And they
Not
said,
if you were the last dude on Earth.
and they said,
But I am.
and they were like, "The world's not going to end." And then one of them I thought had a crafty answer, which was, maybe the virgins will go to heaven and the rest of us will go down. Then I was like, oh, well, perhaps.
checkmate.
Okay, can't argue that
That's the
one.
best blow off I've ever heard.
Yeah.
Can't argue that one.
God wants you this way, intact.
Yeah. And I remember sitting with a girl at the mall. Same thing. The world was going to end in a couple of days. And I said, why don't you? And she was really good looking and a cheerleader. And I was like, why don't you, have sex with me before? And she was like, no, I don't think so. But she let me down real easy. But now it would be so inappropriate to do something like that.
Oh, yeah.
You could be arrested.
Absolutely. And with good reason. And
Yeah,
now
certainly
I think,
fired.
God, look at the stuff I was doing. I was so stupid. But in the 80s,
Different
it was
time.
totally different time.
Yeah.
You just
Harassers roam the earth freely.
didn't think anything about it. Didn't think anything.
Happily.
My friend and I were talking about, the Diesel and I were talking about Revenge of the Nerds the other night and how wildly inappropriate that movie. They make fun of every stereotype. This came out in
Including
82. Rape in that movie. That's right. And one of the nerds sleeps with the hot girl who was dating the quarterback on the football team without her knowledge. She thinks that because he's in costume, she thinks it's her boyfriend. Well, he reveals that she's like, "Oh, you're the best. That's the best you've ever been." He takes off his mask and
It's
she's
the
like,
Carradine.
"You're that nerd. You're Carradine." He's like, "Yeah." and she winds up with him. She's like, "Oh, you're better than my boyfriend."
Yeah, and he's smart.
Can you imagine? That's what I was watching when I was 12 years old. Crazy. Here's the point. I called G105 to request Lost in Your Eyes by
Again?
Debbie by Debbie Gibson. And the DJ started talking to me about other stuff. And on the other side of the commercial break, he aired our phone call, but he edited out the Debbie Gibson part and did not play the song. You know? And I said to my friend, I feel violated.
What do you play? Wild Thing by Tone Loc?
Right, exactly. He plays something else and just puts my comments about G105 being a great station. And I said, I feel violated. He just recorded me and didn't even think about playing my song.
Used you.
I was sitting there with my hand on Paul's,
Yeah.
ready to get it, for my mixtape.
Yep.
Anyway, that was that. And that's when I learned the harsh reality that is radio.
And said, someday I'll do it to others.
Exactly,
Yep.
and I have, time and again.
We should title your autobiography, Please.